If you're wondering when to move on from something that you're practicing, the fast answer is whenever you want. But of course, there's more to it. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Learn Jazz Bass with Matt Rabicki in the thinking chair. I'm glad that you're here. I'm really grateful for our bass brothers and sisters who ask really good questions many times. And recently I've had a couple different folks, for whatever reason, ask questions about when to move on from something that they're working on. And it's a great question. And I don't have all the answers, but I have some thoughts that I hope will help if you are in the same position. The first thing I want to sort of mention is that it's really helpful, extremely helpful, to think first about the thing you're thinking of in regards to if it is a technical thing that you're working on or a conceptual thing. If you can separate those, it's really helpful because they have slightly different approaches as to when to move on. So physical technical thing at a certain tempo or whatever. It gets very messy in there, so if you can't make the distinction, that's okay. All these things still apply to everything. The other thing I want to sort of think about is what is learning? What is actually the process, or what does it mean to learn something for us as bass players, as musicians? I think it is to be able to recall and execute something under pressure. Generally, that means under performance. So there's a few steps to get there to be able to execute under pressure. But that said, there still are some, hopefully some tips, some thoughts that might help you in the practice room. But I want to keep that goal of the stage as the priority. Can we do this on stage? Just off of that, though, if you can't get to the stage, it still means more to try to do the thing you're trying to do with one other person at least. Doing it with another human being, for whatever reason, just the vibes in the room will change how it feels to try to execute something that you're working on. So if it is a technical thing, remember that fun game of the rule of 10 or the game of 10. You're trying to execute the technical thing you're trying to do 10 times in a row, essentially perfectly, as well as you can you hear in your head that you're shooting for. Start counting. If you make a mistake, you go back to number 1 and you're trying to get to 10. So even if you get to number 9 or number 10 and you make a mistake on 9 or 10, start again at 1. And then just keep working on that until you can't do it anymore. One really critical thing that I want to point out that I learned in a great book about practicing, which I will put on the screen here because I can't recall the name of it right off the top of my head. Absolutely fantastic book. I totally recommend it. Is something that makes entire sense and also is a learned experience for me. The learning process for all of us, for anything, comes in the rest. I'll say it again. The learning process comes in the rest, not the effort, but the time from the one effort to the next. That can be 5 minutes, it can be half an hour, a couple hours, it can be overnight. So when you're trying to do this process of the perfect 10, for example, if you can't get to 10 perfect times and you've tried for whatever it is, half an hour, give it a rest. You'll probably be better at it the next time you try. That goes to also something that connects technical and conceptual, which is the next time. And what I mean here is to check in, to test how well you've integrated something, to check in the next day or the next practice session without any crutches whatsoever. If you're trying to learn a tune, no sheet music in front of you. If you're trying to learn an arpeggio, no sheet music in front of you, no reference points whatsoever. Can I confidently execute this without anything else in front of me a little bit later than when I was working on it before? If you can't, then you haven't integrated it enough. There you go. There's your answer. Keep working on it. That said, I want to really be also very mindful and share with you to be very gentle with yourself in the learning process. We tend to, many of us, to be perfectionists, whether we realize it or not. And we tend to sort of prescribe or ascribe. It is prescribed to us that this learning process is very linear because of the way we're raised in Western society, because of the way our school system works, and so on and so forth. There's step 1, step 2, step 3. And I'm certainly one for wanting to do that myself. But that's not the way learning art works. It is extraordinarily messy and extraordinarily non-linear. So keep reminding yourself of that. And this goes to that first part I said in the very beginning of the video. Give yourself permission to move on when you feel like it, and give yourself permission to be sloppy. Don't necessarily hold yourself to this perfection standard without a break. Yes, we're shooting for that 100%, but also understand that it is literally impossible for us to master everything we need to master one step after the other. It has to be nonlinear. And so anytime you're feeling that whatever you're working on is sort of stopping you from wanting to go to the practice room, stopping you from listening to music, stopping you from, an overall enjoyment. Of course, there's going to be some discomfort, but frustration. If it's stopping you from that, move on and come back to it later. Not only that, because the learning process is messy and nonlinear, with that, it is also a recursive process, I think is the best way to describe it. I tried to sort of get into some coding for a while, and this sort of idea of a recursive code where the code sort of feeds itself level to level. It keeps telling itself what to do. There's this recursive aspect to playing an instrument where you're working on one idea. Let's say it's a G major 6 triad or G major 6 chord in all inversions. Okay, let's say you're trying to master that. And you're doing this one exercise with that over and over and over again. Well, when you play a walking bass line, when you listen to a pop tune, when you are perhaps studying a classical etude, this major 6 chord in any inversion is going to show up in a ton of places. When you're playing a walking bass line and a G6 shows up, you're going to play something. If you're trying to learn walking, you're going to play stuff that keeps reinforcing the idea that you're trying to learn, is what I'm trying to say. So give yourself that permission to just understand that, hey, I'm going to keep touching on this stuff as I go. Remember too that this is supposed to be fun. It's not surgery, and mistakes are 100% part of the deal. Of course, again, we're shooting for not making mistakes, when we don't want to. It's part of it. It's okay. It's supposed to be fun. It's not going to kill anyone if you make a mistake. The most important thing, hands down, bar none, is showing up. Showing up in the practice room consistently. Showing up with the headphones on, listening consistently. By far, without question, the ultimate thing is it doesn't matter as long as you show up and try. Don't just go through mindless stuff, although some of it is mindless. Let's be clear too, some of this technical stuff is mindless. That's okay, it's part of it. But we need the mindless repetition so that we can execute in the conceptual way. Think of it sort of like you might be conditioning for a sport, football, for example. We go through tons and tons of drills so that something that you need to call on during a game is immediately accessible. You don't have to think about it, you immediately do it. I know that's part of the military as well, the military idea. You just, no thought, you just do the thing because you have conditioned your body to be ready for it. That comes from a lot of boring stuff. But showing up in an engaged way is all that matters, really. But to stay motivated through those boring times, try to find opportunities to use this information immediately in a way that is, you can apply it practically. So getting on that stage, playing with a play along, taking it out of just that exercise space, putting it into a musical space is going to be immediately helpful. Also look for those opportunities to find that thing you're working on in other musical moments, like I mentioned, in a classical etude, in analyzing a walking bass line, listening to a solo, analyzing a solo from somebody. Oh wow, I hear that G6 right there, or oh my God, well, you know, to work on piano and so on and so forth. Like just try to find other musical opportunities to think about how this information you're working on connects. A really important thing too, and that goes to, I think, what's special about jazz is that everything is about taking ownership of material. And so how can you yourself find ways to make a game out of this thing you're working on, to find a way to identify with it as part of sort of like your personality. Like, I own this G6 and here's how I own it. I love the way it sounds when I do this, or I found this one recording where, you know, the tenor player plays a second inversion G6 twice or something like that. Something that means something to you is extraordinarily important. Also ask yourself, can you practice the thing you're working on with variations? Variations in tempo, variations in register on the instrument, variations in fingering, and so on and so forth. So try to take a boring thing and find ways to make it interesting. It is only my job and a teacher's job to try to give you the path. It's really, really up to us to take the next step and be engaged and be motivated and take ownership, like I'm talking about, for ourselves. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you what to do. Always be looking for opportunities to make it your own and to find your own way to make a game of something or to keep it interesting for yourself. The last thing I want to mention, and that's sort of like showing up, has to do with showing up in the practice room, is a very sort of weird trick, or perhaps it's a great thing about the brain. I'm sure it's some leftover thing from us being, you know, trying to survive out in the wild. When you are concentrating on something for a long time and you feel like you're not getting it, stuff still gets in to your brain. For example, oftentimes I will try to learn a solo by listening to it so many times and then being able to sing it without my instrument, and trying to sing it away from the recording too, like just sing it by myself. I have fought so often with many, many solos in not being able to do that to the degree that I want to, really fighting for it. But what's cool is that even though I feel like I didn't internalize something, there are bits that stay with me no matter what. And those things I can use. So, okay, I didn't learn the whole solo. Well, I was never going to play the whole solo anyway in a solo, right? Like, you don't want to play somebody else's solo. So some of it sticks with you. You can't necessarily always pick what that is. But that should be really heartening to you, that if you're working on something, something is going to stick. You move on, you work on another thing, something else sort of sticks. You touch on this same idea, the G6 chord, you touch on that in a couple weeks and something else sticks, or another year, something sticks. It just sort of starts to all fall together over time, especially stuff that has to do with like theoretical, conceptual things. I promise you, if you keep at it, something's going to click. I hope that all this stuff was helpful for you and hopefully motivational for you. Remember to show up. Remember to stay engaged for yourself and take ownership of the thing. Be gentle with yourself. Be patient with yourself. And allow yourself to be a little sloppy. It's okay. Just keep going. Thanks for joining me today. I do have a PDF of these broad points that I talked about today that you can get below. And always remember, straight ahead and strive for tone.